My A-level option is Devin Williams from the Milwaukee Brewers. You probably saw him this postseason when he gave up the go-ahead home run to Pete Alonso. So that memory doesn't feel great for you. Let me try and sell you otherwise. Let me also note that this would be totally out of line for how the Mariners operate. They don't pay relievers, and they don't trade for highly paid relievers, which would need to happen to acquire Devin Williams. I think it would be worth it in this case, though, and I think this has a chance to make as big an impact on the Mariners' offseason as any bat could. Because what's one thing we know for certain about this Mariners team this past season, Lyle, is that for as good as the pitching was, they got victimized in the 6th, 7th, and 8th innings this year. More specifically, the 7th and the 8th innings. They had a higher ERA this year in the 7th and 8th innings than they did in any other inning this season. Why is that? Well, in the 7th and 8th inning, that's usually about when the starters would come out and the first wave of bullpen arms would come in. It wouldn't be Andres Munoz most of the time. It would be the guys in the middle of the bullpen before Munoz would pitch at the back end of the 8th inning to the 9th inning. And the Mariners would struggle in the 7th and the 8th inning because the caliber of arm at that point and how those guys were pitching this season was frankly not good enough. You went into this year expecting you would have Santos, you would have Brash, you would have Munoz, and to some extent that you would have Ryan Stanek to cover those innings and be dominant. Well, they weren't. The only guy surviving in that group at the end of the year was Andres Munoz. You need another guy to help bridge that gap to win baseball games. And Devin Williams at a $10.5 million price tag, which is crazy for thinking what the Mariners would spend their money on this offseason. $10.5 million for a reliever, but it's going to help win them games if they go out and do it.
Devin Williams has a career 1.83 ERA. Career. He's been in the league since 2020, I believe. 1.83 ERA. He strikes out over 14 batters per 9. This guy has been one of the game's elite of elite relievers since he stepped foot on a big league mound. And I'll tell you what, if the Mariners are not going to shell out the capital in a trade or the money to go get high-level bats to change this team, and they're really going to win through pitching and defense, then doing something like trading for Nico Horner to play second base and trading for Devin Williams is an option that makes a lot of sense. Hell, I'll even take it a step crazier. Trading for and extending Devin Williams. Mm-hmm. Because this guy is one of the game's elite closers. He is. He does not get hit. He is absolutely unreal. If the Mariners acquired Devin Williams, the two best pitches in all of baseball would be in the Seattle Mariners bullpen. Devin Williams' changeup, which has been nicknamed the Airbender by friend of the show, Rob Friedman, the pitching ninja, and Matt Brash's slider. You would have a bullpen that would consist of, if all healthy, Andres Munoz, Devin Williams, Matt Brash, and Gregory Santos. There is no quadrant of players, no foursome of relievers that is better in baseball than that if everybody's healthy. No way. That is how the Mariners could win games by that formula.
It's enticing. He has only had an ERA over 2 once in his career. Over 2! That's insane. I recommend you guys go look up compilations of his changeup if you're not familiar. It is one of the most unique pitches I think I've ever seen. Changeups aren't supposed to spin, but his changeup actually spins a lot. And it is really, really effective. His fastball, which is in the upper 90s, has also come along quite a lot in his career. It used to be a pitch that got hit pretty hard. Recently, hasn't gotten hit very hard the last 3 years. He is as ideal an addition you can put in the bullpen. There's no, skirting around the edges like they did with Ryan Stanek, who was still available in spring training and had only one really great season in his career. Devin Williams has been unbelievable every season of his career. And lucky for them, the Brewers have already set a precedent that they are willing to trade an impending free agent star reliever on their roster, like they did for Josh Hader in 2022. Now, I expect them to do the same thing for Devin Williams. I think the Mariners would be foolish to not be in on Devin Williams if they really think they have the pieces to acquire him.
Mm-hmm.
I know that. Jerry, I know you don't believe in paying relievers a lot of money. I know you believe in your development of pitchers. I know you believe in your ability to find these waiver claim guys who come to your bullpen and are unbelievable. The Justin Topas, the Gabe Spires, the Taylor Saucedos, the Drew Steckenriders, the Paul Sewalds, and on and on and on. But Devin Williams is available.
Yeah.
And man, don't want to see this team go through another season where they're blown games in the 8th inning and costing this unbelievable rotation wins. Devin Williams helps.
If those guys all did what they did in the Mariners bullpen, guys who you basically found off the street and turned into stars, if you can do that with guys like that in terms of your pitching development and how you develop bullpen arms, what could you do with Devin Williams? The guy who I would call the second best reliever in all of baseball behind Emmanuel Clase. When he is healthy, he is that. He has been the best reliever in the National League for a long time. And at his best, again, with Emmanuel Clase. You can argue for somebody like Felix Bautista when he's healthy. You can argue about Mason Miller. You can argue some others. You could argue on Andres Munoz when he's at his best. Devin Williams, man, oh man. So I got two things to say. Number one is a statement. Number two is a question. When Matt Brash got his Tommy John surgery, Hollander said 12 months is roughly the estimated timetable for return. You think, okay, got the Tommy John at the end of May, early June. He'd be back around that time. If he needs some more length to build back up, maybe it's closer to the All-Star break. All of a sudden, Justin Hollander's talking this week that Brash is doing great, progressing, and we could see him back by late April. So then all of a sudden, you've got that set of 4 guys in your bullpen for basically the whole year. You don't have to wait around for Matt Brash. Apparently, he's progressing great. And I'll remind people, the reason it doesn't take relievers as long to recover from Tommy John as starters is because they don't have to build back up as much. They go all out for 1 inning, and that's their job. Man, I've since we threw this idea out there and saw Devin Williams was available a couple weeks ago, I've been thinking about what that bullpen could look like with those 4 guys. And yes, Santos has to stay healthy. But man, that would be pretty cool. Number 2 is a question for you. And circling back to something I said a minute ago. Am I crazy for saying that if you trade for Devin Williams, he's an extension candidate?
At what number?
I'm not talking a 10-year deal. 5? 5 for $10 million a year?
I don't think the Mariners would extend Devin Williams if they trade for him. Based on all of their needs and their self-imposed budgetary decisions, I don't think they have the ability to pay a reliever. It's going to be $20 million a year, I think, is what he'll ask for.
Oh, yeah, okay. I probably said it way too low. What am I saying? $10 million, $50 million total on a 5-year deal? No.
Hader's
right.
making, what, 18? He's going to want more than that.
He'd ask for what Edwin Diaz got, which was 5 for 100.
Yeah, and the Mariners cannot afford that.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
But who would you trade for him? His trade package really is not going to be that much. If he's the Brewers are cheaper than the Mariners are. That $10.5 million they want to take off their books for this year, and the impending future value of what he would cost in the future. So it wouldn't cost you an arm and a leg to acquire him, to get him on this Mariners roster. And I really think he'd like pitching in T-Mobile Park. I mean, who wouldn't? It's your walk year, Devin. Don't you want the best possible pitching environment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do. And as good as Devin Williams is in terms of his value in a trade package, you're right. He is a relief pitcher. He throws 1 inning a night with a year left on his contract. You're right. He is not going to cost the world. None of your top prospects are going anywhere. Maybe none of your next wave of prospects after that are going anywhere for all we know. I don't think it's going to cost all that much to acquire the guy. Maybe the Brewers would want somebody on the big league roster. Maybe it would be somebody that, is not a huge difference maker, but that's a big leaguer and a prospect. Could be something like that. What if it, what if it was somebody like a decent ended prospect, somebody in that top 12 range, and Dom Canzone, who's controllable?
Sure.
Yeah.
It'd be great for Dom. He gets to go hit in that bandbox.
Right. Just an idea.